We're here with Misty White from White Mist Creative Studios. I've got a couple of pieces of hers. She's an artist. This is one of my favorites. It just always did speak to me. I love this one. Welcome, Misty.
Hi.
Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us how you got started doing this art
Well,
stuff.
I'm Misty White, and I'm Eric White's wife. And around about probably 2016 or 17, I started watching acrylic pouring videos. Probably 2017. And I just absolutely binged them. I actually stumbled onto them from those satisfying videos where they rip their hands and break up chalk stuff, or where they cut Play-Doh or play with Orbeez. And I just happened to see, oh, what's that liquid with the colors, and what is that, you know? That was the only thing in there that I found, like, kind of satisfying, right? And so I started looking for that and discovered acrylic pouring.
Well, I watched you do it, and I've seen you do a few of them. We've got another one here that I just love. This little guy.
Oh.
He's my buddy.
That was my first acrylic flip cup pour. My first successful one.
For a long time, I'd have him looking up at the cross. Where he was looking at that cross. It was kind of neat. I really liked it. How did you get started doing this stuff?
Well, like anybody else that watches a video, you know, a lot of people watch tutorials, and some people believe the lie, like I didn't. I believe the lie. Oh wow, I can't believe they know how to do that. I could never do that. That's the lie. I could never do that. If you think that, that's the lie. It's just skills. Anyways, so I believed that lie until I watched enough tutorials to know how to do it. And I thought to myself, well, maybe I could do it, but I could never afford to do it with the money for the supplies. And I believed that for a long time, until I realized I'm gonna stop myself and go back just a little bit. So I don't want to forget this part of my story. So I watched a lot of these tutorials from people like Mixed Media Girl, Molly's Artistry, Rinskadona, Sarah Mack, Millie D. Gosh, who else? Priscilla Batzel at Impressionistic Spring Hill Art Studios down in Florida. I really like her. She's very freeing. But some of the, like, Mixed Media Girl and whatnot were really the ones that taught me how to do it. So one time, Mixed Media Girl went on vacation and shot a video from her vacation. And she had, you know, you can't take the paint tubes on the plane because they're bigger than the ounces allowed. So she said she went down to the Dollar Tree and got all of her supplies for $20. And then she got down real close in the camera like this, or maybe she didn't get down in it, but she looked at the camera very directly, like pierced into my soul, right? And she said, "Don't tell me you can't afford acrylic pouring. I'm on vacation and I got all this stuff for $20 from the Dollar Tree." So that, at that time, I had $10 extra a week. So I was like, well, you know what? I'll just buy one half of it now, one half of it next week, and I'll give it a try. I was not a success the first time I tried, okay? This is not the story of, she just knew how to do it, and then bless her heart. No, it's a learn as you go thing. All things are skills, you know? Maybe you don't have the desire or passion to go after those sets of skills, but it's mostly just skills. Now, some people can do the skills skillfully, and some people need a lot of practice to do the skills skillfully, depending on what the skill is. But, you know.
You said one time to me that you didn't know how to drive a car when you were a kid. You had to learn how. Now you're an adult, now you know how to drive a car because you've done it in practice.
Right.
It's the same process.
Yes, it is. And so, my first two were absolutely horrible, but this little piece right here,
I love him.
I do too, was my first successful flip cup. And I honestly haven't got results like that around the edge since then that good. I really like this one.
Look at the back of that.
First successful flip cup, November 18. That means 2018. Yeah, it was. And I have my first successful ring pour and my first successful Dutch pour as well. I kept all of those. Those were benchmark pieces. But I started doing that, and I have been pouring since November of 2018. You know, I started off on our rickety deep freeze.
In the back room.
Chest deep freeze. I started pouring on that. I didn't have a table. I didn't have a studio. I have a nice studio now. It's pretty messy right now, but I have a nice studio. And
there's still paint on that deep freeze.
yeah. But, you know, I just kept pouring. I just kept practicing. I kept trying new things. I kept learning new techniques. And it's not all about, you know, okay, they did this, I'm going to do that. But you learn the techniques so you can incorporate it in other ways. You know, I am right now trying to learn how to do the landscape pours. Am I perfect at it yet? No. It's not about that. It's about the journey of going there. And if you don't start the journey, how do you expect your end to look like? You know, you can't expect your end to look like bliss and success if you never started the journey.
If you never started it. Yeah.
Right. So, and that's my words of wisdom to anybody that would try to do acrylic pouring or would have a desire to do anything in life. You know, if you have a desire and you want to do something, then just go do it. Put your hands on it and get dirty.
You can clean it up as you get better.
Right. You know what? Maybe the first cake you bake isn't the best cake in the world. But you keep baking, you'll keep learning. As long as you have a heart to learn, you can go far in life. You have any other questions for me?
Well, that was one question. You really kind of covered a lot of stuff that I was going to mention, but what would you say would be the hardest, what has been the hardest thing that you've had to do? Like, not the hardest job you've done, but the hardest thing you've had to get through. From I can't do this to look what I did.
The fear that paralyzes you. You get a certain distance and then you're just scared to move anymore because you're just going to screw the rest of it all up. And, you know, there's been one thing to help me. It's just paint. It's just canvas. You can get another one and you can try again. You can pour over it. You can paint over it. You can, you know.
You've poured and painted over stuff that you ended up not liking.
Right. I have a few I might pour over now. Just because you get further on don't mean you don't have failures. This is acrylic pouring, baby. It's going to be messy.
Yep.
You know, but also just to not be so tight, right? Not be so afraid to play and not look at it don't look at the outcome. If you look at it, and no matter what it is, if you are looking for a specific outcome, I'm afraid you're going to be disappointed. Maybe it comes out perfect, but if it doesn't, and you're looking for that outcome, you will hate that thing. And I don't want anybody to fall into the trap of hating the thing they made. You know, our God doesn't do that. He doesn't hate the thing he made, no matter how much it's not like the end outcome he wanted. Right. Number 3 or number whatever this is. The next thing I would say would be to, I'm kind of like a wind-up clock. He's just wind me up and let me go. The next thing I would say is, well, I had it in my brain a second ago, so let me go back over these as a review.
And then merry-go-round, sometimes it comes back around.
Right. So the first thing was fear. After you're trying to defeat the lie that you can do this, and you start the journey. Once you've started the journey, fear comes and tries to stand guard and says, "Don't touch that." And you have to beat it up in its face and say, "Get out of the way," and get to it. You know. Next thing is not to look at the outcome. Not to be expecting. Yes, we have a goal, obviously. You can't start a painting with it. I mean, you can in acrylic pouring. You can just go colors. Blah. That's probably the better way to do it, honestly. I never do it that way, but I always have something I want to see. But don't hang on to that, right? So we talked about that. I'm trying to think because I had it just a second ago. And I know it'll come back to me. All the things that I've learned in acrylic pouring. Boy, I know it's going to be one I'll just kick myself for forgetting.
45 seconds after we end this, you'll remember. That's how I do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What about, you covered, you started on a small space as a chest, deep freeze, in a back room, next to a back door,
I had so many ruined paintings because cat jumped up there, or Christmas lights fell in them. It was not a controlled space.
I remember that. What would you say to a person that maybe has done something like this for a little bit, they've been doing it a little bit, and they want to get into a more professional type setting, like a gallery or a show or something? How would they do that? How did you do that?
Well, look for the artists. Okay, so in my local area, we have a couple of different opportunities for artists. We have JRAC, which is a artist coalition for the region of Joplin, and I looked around, and there was a couple other places to join. Spiva, Art Central, and I picked JRAC because they have 3 to 4 shows a year. They go to those different places, so I thought it was a good entry point. So if you're not from around here and you're watching this, just go and look up artists and, art galleries that are, like teaching galleries even maybe. Local. Or like...
as local as you can get.
Yeah, you want to, do all of it. Do whatever you feel led to do. I'm not here to tell you what not to do. I'm here to just say, go try something, For me, I decided to start seeing if anybody wanted these things I was making because they were starting to pile up, and I was starting to get satisfied with them, right? Like, okay, this might be something somebody might want, and maybe they weren't then, but I kept going. Anyhow, get involved with your local artists. If there's a location that's a gallery that is very community oriented and well known, you'll want to find out if they have a members sponsored, like a membership that you can get in for artists. any kind of coalitions that get you into shows, those are important to join. My dues are $35 a year. That's not bad. You know, I get into 4 shows or 3 shows a year. And my art, you know, they will put your stuff on their website. And so if somebody was like, I want to look and see if there's an artist I might want to commission my work. Right now that feels like a white elephant to me, but it's not, because that happens. But yeah, my next step, I think, will be to be in a Spiva membership. Spiva or Art Central, but I'm kind of iffy right now on which one to do. So, you know, just keep learning, let go of the outcome. Don't be so tight and rigid. And, you know,
how do you bring God, or how do you bring God, or do you bring God into your art? How do you do that?
Well, sometimes he tells me what paintings to do. Sometimes I don't necessarily feel like he's there, even though he is, right? And sometimes I worship while I paint. Sometimes I don't. I know everybody wants like, you must worship while you paint all the time. And I'm like, well, that happens a lot, but it doesn't happen all the time. And it's not bad if you don't. And I think it's better if you do. For you, for me, I get like in a vibe. But sometimes if I have music on, I get a little too excited, and another piece will require my stillness. You know? So, I'm a person who loves worship. I'm a vibrant worshiper. But, you know, I would like to mention that I have workshops available for those who want to learn.
I was actually going there next.
Yeah, but I'm going to cut back to your question because I don't feel like I did full justice. Sometimes it's as simple as I want to try a new technique. And I try that and I pick out colors that mean something to me. Mm-hmm. And I am going and asking the Lord to release that message, right? Sometimes it's a matter of being obedient to Him when He has asked me to do paintings. He usually asks me to pick up a paintbrush.
Wow.
Yeah. That's an area where I'm growing. It's not an area where I feel comfortable, but it's an area where I'm growing. Come here, kitty.
Oh, yeah.
Come here. Into mommy. He wants his dad because Dad's in the chair he can sit in. He knows he can't sit on my lap here because my lap is falling off. But anyhow, back to the subject at hand. With the pours, you know, sometimes I don't know the message until after the painting's finished. Like, I had a painting that was finished called Identity in Process. And in this painting, when I did it, I thought it was finished and I put it up in a show. And somebody came to me that I highly admire, Diana Bray. She's a local artist in Joplin. And she does fabulous mixed media work. I just absolutely adore her work. I have some local artists whose work I would love to have the budget to be able to buy some of their works. And actually, I think we're in a Eric Beasley realm because his latest was just $50. Gotta have a Beasley. Anyway, I get excited about these things. This is what happens when you connect into the local community. What was I talking about?
You're going to swing back around.
Oh, so the story about identity and process. So, identity and process, I got advice from Diana Bray about it needing something geometrical in there to counterbalance the rest of it. And when I looked at it, I was like, yeah, I can see that. And I could kind of see what I wanted to do. So I did it. And when...
Added to a finished piece.
Yeah.
You add it to a finished piece. Okay.
It's never finished until you seal it. And even then, maybe you can paint over the top of that and keep going. So, you know, it's not finished till you think it, till it says it is, right? But, so I added that in, and I was having trouble with it because straight lines are not my friend, all right? And I was trying to get a real straight edge. And no matter what I did, the left side would be fuzzier and messier than the right side. The right side, I'd get the perfect lines, no messing about. It was brilliant. And the left side was just like, it always had this messy, kind of like split ends look to it. You know what I mean? And I was talking to God, I was like, God, why is it doing this? Why? And because I had gotten, you know, because the first part I was like, oh, well, I'm getting better at it as they go. But then I started doing the highlights over the top of it. And by that time, I had done the right side already. I felt like, okay, I should be able to lay a clean line now. Au contraire. Au contraire, my friend. It was still messy on the left and clean on the right. And I go, God, what is going on here? And he goes, look at the painting. I was like, okay. So once you work on a painting for a while, your eyes get a little tired of it. And I kind of looked at it, and he goes, okay. You see how that's coming down? Because it's got this, it's acrylic pouring, it's got this Dutch pour sort of look, and so it's got like a stream, kind of like that green one he showed you. And it's got like this stream effect. It was actually a ringed Dutch pour that I did, because I did it and then blew it out, blew the rings out. And I need to do some more of those, actually. And anyhow, as I looked at it, I could see where the structure was pulling the river through. It was like a river or a outpouring. And the left side of the structure is the journey to the river. And then you come through the river, because the geometric split around the pouring piece. So I made a part of the geometrics go behind, look like it's going behind the pour, and then the other side's coming out over on top and then behind. And so when you do that, it comes out clean on the other side. And he says it's just like your journey home. You know, you come to the river and you stay with my river and you're going on home. And the river always flows down to the lowest place. That's when I knew why. Because I named it when it was still just a little stream, and I had no idea why I named it. I did a name process. I was just asking God for a name, and he gave me one. But then, so he creates with me, and I don't even know it sometimes, okay? I'm not that aware sometimes. So sometimes it'd be like that, right?
So where is Identity and Process now?
Oh, it's at Elements Art Gallery and Studios
In Joplin.
In Joplin at 2207 West 7th in Joplin, Missouri. I have quite a few pieces there, actually. I have about a 80, maybe 90 square foot place. Yeah. And I do workshops there. Actually, I have a workshop coming up at Elements on July 14th from 6 to 8. These classes have been filling up very quickly, so you'll want to go ahead and jump on board and go sign up. You can call, it's 417-691-8285, and you can call there and sign up for the classes. From what I could see, looks like there's still some spots available, so you want to hop on that pretty quickly. This next class is going to be blooms and balloon dips, so that will be a lot of fun. We're going to have a blast with that.
I have heard some of your students talk about how fun they are.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
How?
Well, I have stepped in and stepped out in the middle of your class, and I have been near when they leave and that kind of stuff. And I've heard people talk about how much they enjoy it. So
Nice.
it is something that people do like, and the people
That's
that
good.
show up that are it's a paid class, so it's people that want to be there are there on purpose. They're not there on accident. And they know what they want to do, and they're learning, and they do enjoy it. So you must be doing it right.
Well, I have to thank the ones who taught me and my spiritual mom for that, because she just put the teaching in me, right? I've been teaching for a long time, just not art. I teach at Feeding Incorporated in Carthage, Missouri, and so I've just been teaching for a long time, and so when it came time to switch to the workshop, I just hopped that little gift on over to that particular mountain, and just used it to teach the knowledge that I have. So I have some of that in me. I wouldn't say I'm the best teacher in the world, but I would say that, I'm always willing to share my journey and see if it helps anybody else.
Well, I think you're doing a great job. I love it, and I support it completely. I think we're going to cut this off, and well, thank you for coming in.
Yeah, I just want to say one more thing before we get off here. I just want to thank you so much for all that you've done to support me in this. There was a time when we lived on Park Place, when there was a spare room and you didn't have an office and I didn't have a studio, and only one of us could win. Because at that time, we needed our space. And you gave it up for me. So you let me have that space and allowed me to grow. And if it weren't for that room and that card table,
That little card table.
I wouldn't be able to be who I am today. I wouldn't have done this if I hadn't married you, because you encouraged me. And so thank you for your encouragement. I really appreciate that.
I support what you do. I always knew that you could do it.
And now it's time for you to break out.
And now it's time for me to break out and start doing stuff. So thank you for coming in. We'll probably talk more later. I'll have you on again. And,
Okay. Well, thank you.
And
Thanks for having me on.
Yep. We'll end this and see you next time.